Hello everyone. Today, we are going to look into a case that came to light as a result of footage captured by security cameras. The subject of this investigation being ASP-14-1 and ASP-14-2. This investigation has a clearance level of 1. Two separate security cameras have captured a strange creature that looks like a pair of walking pants and have enticed the public eye. One of the sightings happened in Fresno and the other one at Yosemite National Park. But similarly to another credible cryptid, Mothman, this creature isn't domestically tied to one place, so we will refer to it by its original name, leaving out location. As the story goes, in 2007 a Fresno resident named Jose shared surveillance footage of his front lawn with television producer and paranormal investigator Victor Camacho, hoping that Victor could offer answers. Then there's the 2011 video with two figures walking across Yosemite Lakes Park. So is there anything to this grainy footage? It seems like the quintessential hoax. Grainy footage to the point that you wouldn't be able to see the creature's eyes if it has any. Strangely shaped blobs and internet hysteria. Is this just a fun muse for artists? An ancient alien? Or something more? I had 7 paragraphs of text analyzing this video, but I don't think it'll do us much harm to cut to the chase. This video has not been disproved, and doesn't really have the video quality to be proved either. The story of how it was found could go either way, quite frankly. I don't want to discredit someone who legitimately is scared and searching for answers, and Victor seems to find him credible. The events seem difficult to reproduce as well. I was ready to dismiss the video as something that cannot be used, but Victor told us his story and showed video of the house. He asked Jose if he could see the location. Jose could have said no, but he said yes. Even gave him an original copy of the footage. Jose is a Hispanic man in a suburban neighborhood. I know anyone is capable of anything, but I don't see this suburban man living in America who still reaches out to Spanish television services, spending the time orchestrating a hoax. One reporter claimed Jose was an illegal immigrant. If this is true, then why would he try to gain any media attention? Something intensely real must have scared him. It takes at least a bit of effort to obtain CGI technology in 2007, and Jose was not associated with the field. If he or someone else were to set up wires and puppets out in the open, don't you think one of the neighbors would have said something? And we may think that it is grainy and unrealistic atomically, but we cannot say it doesn't look like the typical animal as a way of dismissing it. We must understand what this truly is and view it objectively. We must seek reality rather than a comfortable view of reality we are used to. The world isn't there to fit our view. Simply viewing footage makes it easy to dismiss. I was ready to call it unusable, but when we truly understand where it came from, then we can understand substantially more. Now let's examine it alongside the other famous footage, Yosemite. In both these pieces of footage, emboss effect and inverse were used to search for strings. They would have appeared and yet none were found. In the first footage, Jose was alerted because of his dog's barking, and in this one, the elderly couple recorded their lawn due to a string of break-ins. Despite being peaceful, small, strolling creatures, they seemed to cause quite a fuss. The person this elderly couple gave the footage to for Yosemite analyzed both pieces of footage and found no signs of a physical hoax. As for CGI, I don't think an elderly couple could quite pull that off. Along with a Hispanic immigrant who still watches Spanish television, CGI was a more American television thing at that time. Again, the videos themselves are not the best proof, but along with the backstories give us enough to determine how difficult it would be to make this up for no reason. There is footage from Poland that is shaky and does not have this level of analysis, so I will neither credit nor discredit this video. There's also footage from Billings, Montana. It was making pig noises and a dead deer was found nearby. This could indicate more animalistic traits, however, I will not make a call on this footage either. Why mention these if I feel they are not worth examining one way or the other? I just want to show you these are out there and aren't a two-time fluke. Credible or not, no one is claiming this is it. Speaking of which, let's move past the footage. I think we should touch on the Carmel area creature. The following is that report. To quote, "We recently bought a place in the Fort Hill area in southeast Highland County. We first noticed after about 30 days of living here that we suddenly have a perfect circle that stays fresh green no matter what weather in our front yard. On Friday night, the 12th, we were driving home. After turning on Carmel Road, which leads to our road, we went around the curve by the Carmel Church, and then up a small incline, and approximately 10 feet over the incline and in front of our truck, the quote, alien ran across the road and into the woods. My husband saw it. He is a skeptic, almost 60 years old, and a proud Marine. He wouldn't have admitted to seeing it if he hadn't been in shock. I had him draw it for me when we got to the house. He says it was asphalt gray, our asphalt is gray, and about 7 feet tall. No arms that he could see, but muscular in the leg area. no jawline, and its legs were bent backwards and it leaned forward as it ran. I would like to get this information out in your area in hopes that maybe someone else has seen it, or that their giant crossbred ostrich got loose or something. This is an instance of what I like to call the torsoed nightcrawlers. I'm not sure if they are related, how they would relate, or if they just variations of the same thing. A skeptical old ex-Marine. Even the wife states that he would not have admitted to seeing it had he not been in shock. That's compelling. Even after being so shocked, they still had the idea that it was a giant crossbred ostrich rather than something else. Otherwise, they only refer to the creature as it. It is understandable to not be able to fathom what else this could be. It's nowhere in our mind's database on what we know. The fact that they try and describe it as a known animal, to me, rules out a hoax, and the skeptical ex-Marine is just too perfect. What else could get a baby boomer from the Marines to go so far as to draw the thing, except a tangible and quite troubling encounter of something desperately real? I had heard 3 stories on Reddit. One was swaying in the forest, and another 2 of the torso nightcrawlers in the suburbs, and one of them was staring through a window. I was able to find all of them eventually, however the final one took me 2 months to find, only to realize I saved it somewhere. The reason I mention this, even though I eventually found it, is because it proves there can be more reports that end up just flying under the radar, even when I'd seen them before. Also, these reports are important because it means, like the Carmel area creature, others have seen similar torsoed creatures and they seem to appear in suburban areas. I also mention these because the pattern of these things looking through a window may be pertinent. I also have collected a further 15 sightings on top of these 3. That's over 22 people who have claimed to see these. Not a lot for a cryptid, but then again, this isn't a typical cryptid. We don't know what it is. As I had mentioned before, reports may fly under the radar, although I will speak more on this near the end of the video. What about the credibility of these stories? Well, some of them would be hard to say they are Nightcrawler hoaxes. One of these posts was determined to be a Nightcrawler by a commenter, not the poster. Also, these posts share some common threads that would only be known by the witnesses. Again, these posts were hard to find, so unless someone is really dedicated to searching for a hoax for no reason, except maybe being a masochist who likes people sending angry comments at them, then they all experience something similar without knowing that others did. This common thread is the psychedelic movement. Many described it, and one even described it in a way that sounds akin to infrasound. A gut sense that you shouldn't be there. Maybe that's why these creatures are more brazen than usual. They think their abilities will keep peering eyes away, but that's just speculation. Either way, it is a common yet unknown thread, leading me to believe it isn't some elaborate hoax between 30 friends over 20 plus years. And hallucinations typically aren't the exact same. They vary at least a little bit, but these creatures seem fairly consistent, save for the torso variant. Another point to mention is one report described it as not having fabric, but swaying like the material of the entity was similar to such a fabric. What about indigenous stories? Whether it be robots, aliens, or cryptids, the chances are that these didn't pop up in only the last 20 years. Many have referred to these wooden statues. I cannot find the source for these statues, so I will skip them for now. Well, there are at least reports found from before 2007. There's one from January 2004. So unless Jose, the suburban illegal immigrant looking for his lower half to appear on TV, stringing wires in the night without his neighbors noticing, also decided to look at this motorcyclist story from 2004 to create his creature, I just don't see it being fake. As for the indigenous history, one person had a sighting and described it to a native friend of theirs. They said it was a sisyato. Now, this creature has many indigenous legends, all the way to Aztec and Aboriginal Australian culture. Prepare for me to butcher a bunch of pronunciations. Habalum, Kasinalagat, Sisitu, Grubworm, Larawias, Sisuth, Sisuk, Sulwaras, and Clubis, Silki, Senurquaz, Nagaliod, Quetzalcoatl, Uthine, Sayahus, Ayahos, Sintolo, and Kotul. It is a two-headed snake. Now, this obviously is not a snake, but remember that other cultures don't name things in the way the British do. Just like how no other language can fathom how we thought nudisjurtion was a good name for the day before yesterday. Things are instead named based on what was best for them to know in their situation, like characteristics or traits. We can barely describe this. They aren't really crawling, and aside from the footage, are sometimes seen in the day. They're definitely seen outside Fresno, so why the heck are we calling these Fresno Nightcrawlers? It makes more sense to see something with only 2 legs and think of the only other creature with a lack of limbs. A snake. Why is it upright and walking? Well, that's a head scratcher. Maybe it's a 2-headed snake. It explains the 2 spindly parts connected, and no other explanation makes any more sense. The logic follows just as smoothly, if not more smoothly. Obviously, I don't know this is why they named it as such, but I'm just trying to say that just because no one can find Fresno Nightcrawler specifically mentioned doesn't mean other cultures don't have these things in their oral history. Obviously, the connection to a two-headed snake is not direct, and I am not claiming this is proof, but it is something to consider that an indigenous person made the connection or at least recognized it. If we are analyzing a culture, I think it's a good idea to trust those within the culture to identify than for us to scoff and give white opinions. History can back that sentiment up. With these creatures being the way they are, even alien evolution seems like a difficult explanation to swallow. Something that I've been thinking of is that they are robots, mere surveillance drones. Well, I'm not sure what they would be for, but bear with me as I explain this. The shape is not that of a normal organism. However, for the purposes of a robot, all you would need is a circuit board or brain to fit, and it to be mobile and connected by, say, a ball. It seems to fit these requirements. The pants, as people call them, flapping at the bottom could be some synthetic fiber, but they're the suburban torsoed nightcrawlers. What are they for? Why would you need an eerily atomical torso? The only reason to make a robot appear real is to emulate animals for the purpose of convincing others it is an animal or person. That would mean they are trying to pretend to be humans for some reason, possibly that of easier stealth and blending in, hence why these ones are brazen enough for the suburbs. I don't really like the thought of them trying to create these realistic rib cages to emulate us, but this is just a theory. I thought I'd take a crack at going down the deep end. Really, there's no proof for this. It is only an explanation that fits with the proof, but there can be many of those. None definitive. I like proof that leads to explanations, not the other way around. Truly, we do not know what these are. I have no reason to include this theory except that I found it interesting when it came to mind, and it adds another possible explanation. I'm not sure we can make a definitive statement on these creatures, but if I had to lean one way or the other, I would lean towards their existence being credible. While there are less reports than other cryptids, that may be in their very nature. One witness felt a heavy feeling like they needed to leave when they saw it. They're also strange, and with characteristics that don't follow traditional animals, they might not follow traditional animal sightings. Robots or aliens definitely would be seen less and would look weirder. Maybe they go hand in hand. Maybe their weirdness makes people less confident in coming forward, and maybe they are misidentified. Looking at some reports, many say Wendigo, Skinwalker, Crawler before even asking questions. This policy of identify first, ask questions later is unhelpful. And in the end, I know of other reports that I just could not find for months. Maybe these stories are conducive to flying under the radar. Even so, I found quite a bit from my amateur research. Maybe I've been around the strange parts of our reality long enough that I don't see earthly plausibility as a reason to discredit, and I don't see strange creatures as less likely than normal creatures, and I treat cases such as these more equally. Or maybe I'm just a conspiratorial lunatic. Is ignoring these strange aspects more impartial, or has my research gotten me to the point of bias towards the strange? If you have any opinions on this, leave it in the comments. Either way, thank you for making it to the end. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, you can like the video and subscribe to see more. Goodbye.